So that means okay, this is the Docker Compose files. This we set it here like service definition. That's with the service. That's we define the database service. There's the service names, and then the network mode and breeze and container names, and this is the image that we created. There's the Postgres image that we need to take from the Docker hubs, and then if it is not locally installed, it will download from the Docker hubs. And then this is the we define the volumes and volumes with the local host volumes to the mount to the container volume container path. You see that this is the container path, and this is the host mount points or mount directories. And you see that the ports is within, and then this the environmental variables. That's I said in my presentation part how we take the precedence or priority. If you set this way, and it's take that really Docker Compose file will be first priority, or your shell environmental variable settings will be the second priority, and then it will be the environmental files. If you define environmental files, alternative then default files, then take the third priority, and then it's Docker files to look for these ones. Look for these environmental variables where you set those variables. So we define here the Spring Boot application files. So we put it container names. We build the pass the image name, and also the tag, the application tag version, the all means the tag numbers, and it's a build context. We pass the Docker files. You don't need it if you put it like Docker image, then you don't need to these blocks. But I will show you all the possibilities. So we defined our, just like we are running the context in the root directories, and also this is the context. That's why it said the root directory means if you look for the files, you see the build number 1.2.2, and then you see the context that here. So exactly where we are running our Docker Compose files or Docker files or application.me file. Exactly the same structure as we are looking for. C drive, this one and this one and this one. So this is the project structure where you're running the Docker Compose file. I will stop the application and run all the things from the out of here, then we'll show you together how it works. So it says it's the build. This is one of the most important part that I already discussed. The like how can you pass the arguments or environmental settings from the Docker files, because you see the presentation that I said that it will be the fifth priority. For priority list, if you set the environmental variables in Docker files, then it will take the fifth priority, the same environmental variable. You put here this one first, then this one second, and this one third, and then fourth one. But that's the one of the example that I like. It is not too meaningful, but I will show you how it is works. So it is the arguments you pass it, like you can also environmental variable define build numbers, and then you can pass this environmental variable, and this is the environmental variables. We already defined those environmental variables here as argument list. That means this is the properties we will read from the Docker files systems, and then the value is coming from the environmental variables. So how it is work together, you need just get clear idea how you can set the values where you need those values, how can set those values, how can pass those values, and how can you communicate each of the environmental variables where they are required. You can even go composite those environmental variables. For this case, you see the composite environmental variable. We put it like one has the database host name. We put it here. So also this is the host name because we are using Docker containers, the database host. And also there is a port number to define it. We can use those variables with other variables to combine those variables. At the end of the day, we use those variables into our application, the YAML files or Docker Compose file, whatever it is. So you can label it like this way, just extra information, the port, you can, so application is running 2.21 and it's a container port, and network is breeze, and then this is the most important one, dependent. So that means when you run the applications, it's build your database service first, with all the necessary access and also the privileges, and then after that, an application, you Spring Boot application will run with the respective Docker image and with all the information that you define into the configuration files. We define the link between the two containers or two images or two services, and then you see the Docker links, the same name we put it here, and then we define the volumes to the your data persistence volumes with the mounting with the local host and containers information. Meaning when you lost the applications, you stop the application, still data is available. When you run again the application, it will get the application, it will take the data from the volumes. That's the information. So I think that will be the more clear informations how this works. And now I will show you how this to see the project structure. Like you need to put it here all the class parts. So this is the project structure. So let's minimize it. So project structure, you put it just like the standard Maven project structure, even though standard data project structure. So you put it like you build the environmental files, and then you have the Docker Compose files and then Docker files. And out of these Docker files, it's just simply I just build a Docker I just write down the commands to build the jar files, or you can just simply go to this way, and then you can this is the Mavens. You can just like create Mavens or install Maven files out of this one. So it's simply write down the commands. I will show you the commands I will do. So that means so the more professional, the systematic way you define all the required environmental variables, what you need to pass into the different files, new configuration files, application YAML files, and Docker Compose files. That means when you put this configuration structure to the installation department or teams, then they will just change those variables. Those though they didn't change the key, they will just simply change the key, the values, and then these values automatically deploy your application into the different environments. That's the idea for the global or systematic and professional configuration of your applications. So what we can do now, so that's I said, we will discuss how the development will be done with a really professional way. As I say, this will be the next screencast, how you can define your ORM models, like we will define here all the ORMs, and you can define your repositories, and then here it's some service definition, interface definitions. We have all the service implementations and some utility functions, and this is the main class methods and all the utility functions, and this is what we did. The sequence generations, it's all things I will discuss with you part of later screencast. But here we try to cover very fast how can you install the Docker, how can you run the Docker, write down some Docker commands, and then how can you configure your Docker Compose files, and how can you write down your application.yml files, and then finally how can you write down all the environmental variables to set the environmental variables here globally, and then pass those environmental variables into the configuration files like Docker Compose files and application.yml files. That's right. So if you saw my last screencast, I already discussed about how the Docker desktop works. So if we have the really good Docker desktop tools, and you see that the Docker desktop works as expected, and that's the expectations like. So let's have it. Let's have the Docker Compose works, and then we will minimize the presentations. So you can see the informations like here the images, like here Docker